Hello, good morning. Take number two. I accidentally hit the button and it stopped the video. And it's a good thing because I was going off on a rant that doesn't make sense. I didn't start well. So, what we have a problem of in the United States, and let me just dive into it, is a problem of in some cases an attempt, in some cases an actual happening. Ideological rape. So what that is the forcing of ideas, the only appropriate ideas, the only appropriate thoughts, the only appropriate way to think, the only appropriate things to think about, the only appropriate to a certain sect ways of thinking and considering and doing and being. Ideological. Okay? So it is happening across the country. It's starting with banning books. Has started several years ago. About 4 years? 8 years? I think there were more book bans under Biden, not because of Biden, but because of people getting put into places where that power could come to them. So it is removing access to other ideas, and this is how it happens. Seclusion. How do a majority of rapes happen? They happen when you first have a target, and then you seclude them from the outside, from being seen, being caught, being whatever. So that then you can pound into them whatever idea or ideas that you want. And you can punish for having any other ideas that can be, whether it's proven or unproven. It is what is currently happening to us. Only we aren't realizing that it's actually happening because this is an extreme way of talking about it. And it is something, having been physically raped, now we'll go back to the G word, I understand the triggering aspect of it, which is probably why it took a while for me to form this, that is what this is. Every time we put into the political spectrum, every time Trump and the administration, across all the people participating in the administration wholeheartedly, every time they lie to us and then gaslight us about what the truth actually is, it is ideological rape. Period. And our only recourse of it, and we're doing a lot of light shining on it, but it's verbal. This is why getting out into the public spaces is incredibly vital and important. This is why protesting and continuing to protest until these people are completely out of office and properly adjudicated. Because if you do not have freedom of thought, freedom to come to conclusions, whether they're correct or incorrect, and then understand why they would be incorrect, and understand why something is a truth as a truth, understand what truth really is, and understand where personal truth is for you and how you want to live your life, and somebody else's personal truth does not impede upon your own, and that is okay. So there is sometimes a narrative that it's not sometimes, there is a narrative that's also coming into the force, which is part of ideological rape, that says you are not moral if you are not religious. And yet, before the major religions that are current in the world today, other than the very few that are older than Judaism and Christianity, because Muslim is the youngest as the group of major religions. Um, there, there were other religions, and some places with extremely high morality didn't have what anybody would recognize necessarily as a religion, um, because it was a connection to nature. There were ceremonies that were done in certain circumstances, and there were praises and whatnot done in certain circumstances, foods that were eaten in certain circumstances that were tied to the flow and flux of what was happening in the environment, around in nature, and within the group. There were ways to take care of people within the group. Um, how to properly take care of children, how not. How to properly take care of the elderly, how not. And the worst thing that could happen is for you not to be killed in the group, but to be sent away from the group. Banishment, which is why it was such a big, thing of agony in even in Shakespeare's writings, because it was a complete separation from everything that you knew. It was very scary to be separated and left out alone. And then there's those crazy people who did that anyways. Your people who were off and away and alone, and they were mystical, or they were dangerous and scary, or they were just trying to get away from everybody else and wanted to be left alone, and people wouldn't just leave them alone. I feel sorry for those guys. But the whole component of this is a demand that only morality and ethics can be ascribed from certain religions. Okay, and then there's tolerance for some of the other ones because you got to play nice, that is a problem. Only Christianity and Muslim religions force people to convert. And that never really plays well, because then you don't have a genuine conversion. You have somebody simply appeasing you. And then what happens is the ideological rape continues in high intensity, and then they have to buy into everything, because you have an environment that has so many eyes on you that if in all regards you are not acting properly, it is a problem. And you will either be killed or ejected. Except now they don't want to start really ejecting people. So they're trying to do this huge push in small little bites and nibbles, and then in really big ways. Roe versus Wade was a big way. Book bans are tiny nibbles. State bans are nibbles. And see what the states are doing? A few people in the legislature against the majority of the population, claiming that the majority doesn't know what it wants, trying to override what the majority wants when the majority has voted for abortion rights to be in the Constitution. What is the point of the damn putting it on the ballot if you're not going to... Well, the people of those states, it's your responsibility, if you have one of those states, to remove the assholes from office and stop putting the same people in place. It is now, and this is also what the right is trying to do, ideological rape. Why demonizing the left winds up being a projection of what the right is actually doing. The left is not without its issues and stupidities. And what's funny is Ayn Rand's books are actually talking about the right. What the right is fucking doing. Not about what she considered the left. What she considered movement forward or whatever. She was a skewed person, but her perception was very skewed because she was actually talking about something taking place, but she got it wrongly named. And as much as her books were somewhat screwed up in some ways, I think what the bigger idea is the constriction of ingenuity and creativity by the right, and the constriction of, by major corporations, really healthy competition, because they're not competing, they're buying these people out. And because the sole goal minded, since it's been 2 generations now that are being taught this, Generation X and millennials, that the right way is to build a business and then sell the business for big bucks and do it again. Except when somebody really loves their business and their business does really well and it's actually a competitor against somebody else, the major competition they're fighting up against just waves a few $1 billion around, or hundreds of millions of dollars around, and the people sell out instead of going, no, we're going to continue to be competitive. That's a part of economics, but what that does creates the monsters that we're now throwing fits over. So your local grocery store might be an IGA, or it might be a food city, but it's owned by one of 4 or 5 major corporations. It's just allowed to keep its own branding so it looks like it's separate, but it's not. I think the same people who own Kroger own Food City, I think. I could be wrong. But big people own big things. Now, Walmart doesn't necessarily do this because it's such a huge entity in and of itself between Sam's Club and Walmart's that it doesn't have to spread out like that. That's not what the choice was. It just greatly diminished local grocery stores that couldn't compete with the prices because of the way Sam's Club and Walmart buys things. Just like Costco can bring you something of extremely high quality that is also at a lower price because they buy it in such bulk and spread it out. It's why Sam's Club and Walmart and Costco always have usually the cheapest gas in town. It's because of how they buy it. And our biggest difficulties is in understanding that it's an ideological thing. And how you talk about this to the regular people isn't necessarily throwing around the words ideological rape, because there's probably gonna be issues if anybody comments in this. But it is to understand that is what is happening. And there are people who are okay with it because they see it as a sense of control. And there are other people who just don't understand what that actually means. It means, dude, that depending on who you are, if you and your buddy are economically different, like he's rich and you're not, you're going to go to jail for the SA of that person. He's going to get away with it. He's going to get a slap on the wrist. He's going to say he's embarrassed. He's going to blame you as though it was your idea. He's going to get away with it because he's got the money and you don't. Ideological rape is against people of color and the lower classes. People who are in poverty, below poverty, the poorest among us, and who are barely scraping by into the bottom part of middle class. That's what it's against. It's against you, the average person who doesn't make 6 figures, who barely makes maybe 50. If you're at 50 or 60, you are not feeling very good unless you happen to be in a house that you either inherited or you bought 20 years ago. In which case, you're probably doing okay. Except you can't afford to fix the fucking house. And that means you're okay in some places and not okay in others. You are still not comfortable because life has now gotten far more expensive. Everything is far more difficult. And the fight is about ideological freedom or ideological constriction. Do you want to be dictated to? Not just where you can go or what you can eat or the use between plastic or frickin' paper straws. I firmly believe we just should have gone bamboo. But be that as it may, how paper is silly, the use of straws is silly. I don't know if the glass is clean. Okay. It's a stupid argument. Okay. There is a way through that particular argument. If I feel like I'm bouncing around, I've got a system on my legs that is contracting muscles. So I'm a little dewy because of it. My heart rate is at 106 right now, and that is good. So that's probably why if I'm leaning, I'm looking like I'm bouncing. It's not because I'm moving my legs. Anyways, do you care what your kids actually read? I mean, really. If you see on a banned book list a book that got you into reading is on the ban list and you don't understand why, then you're not paying attention. That is an attempt to remove access to something that from the schools usually, and sometimes in there now trying to do it against the local public libraries, that removes access to other ideas, other possibilities. Like, there is a way to learn about other cultures that doesn't talk about their religion, that talks about it like as though it's in the past and it's not really a current thing, but it is extremely narrow. The reason why a lot of Mormon kids stop being Mormon is because they get out into the real world and then they start talking about things and ideas and whatnot, and oh my God. Or they go to, or other Christian fundamentalist kids get access to the whole world and their eyes get opened up about music they weren't allowed to listen to, or things they weren't allowed to read, movies they weren't allowed to watch, stories, other perspectives that then impact their own perception of the world and rock their sense of reality. Because their world goes from this to this, especially as they go and explore more. And power is in the concentration of how narrow you can get somebody's field of view. That's why there is a limitation in China on what Chinese can access through the internet. That's why there is a limitation in some other countries of what you can access. That's why women are put in burqas or put in specific clothes. They're only allowed to wear specific clothes because access to anything else is dangerous. That's why LDS fundamentalists hie off and separate themselves from the greater world and keep everybody there so that you don't know that what's happening is wrong, for one. All the SA, some of the incest, the fact that marrying a child is illegal, what consent actually is, what age of consent actually means, all of these things. There's an intrinsic knowledge that it's wrong, but they don't know why they feel that way. And then they're made to feel guilty for feeling that way, boys and girls. And then in some of those places, boys are ejected because they then become competition as they come of age. And then you wonder why 4 of your brothers out of your 28 siblings have disappeared at a certain age, and your favorite one is coming to that age and you're afraid they're going to get disappeared. And the only reason why they don't is because they are then a favorite. Favoritism, not just nepotism. I think people think that sometimes that's a bad thing. There's a lot of reasons for it to be a bad thing. There's a lot of reasons for it to be an actual awesome thing. Because when kids are exposed to certain spaces, and you see it more in the acting world, and if they're good, they're going to go places. If they're bad, they're just not going to go anywhere, period. Like the difference between Bruce Lee's kids. He's got one kid who is a great freaking actor. The daughter is not so much a good actor. I've seen her in stuff. I watched her because of being his daughter. She's not good. At least in what she found herself in, it was not. It was just not. It is not where her strengths are. And that is okay. You acknowledge that and you move on. That's the same in anything. Just because your parents are teachers doesn't mean you're going to be a good teacher. Just because, your parents were major scientists or in the medical field doesn't mean you need to be in that field regardless of their pressure, or that it's the best, or that you would be the best place in there. That it's where you absolutely shine. And people get stuck in their groove and they think it's great and amazing. Great if you have enthusiasm for it, but it's a narrowing of the field where that is the only acceptable things for you to go do. It is the same. Family pressures is the same as these bigger pressures. It is ideological foundational restriction. Rape. Don't want you to consider anything else but what I am telling you. Donald Trump is so fucking flustered because he's being told that his ideology is wrong. And his ideology is being expressed through Project 2025's. The project is being done. And so the ideology that Trump actually doesn't hold, in some respects, he didn't give a shit, which is why his chief of staff dude, Miller, is running around as though he's actually in charge of anything. And because Trump is letting him do that, he's feeding into this. He's the one who's doing this. The head guy doesn't even believe it. And that's the thing. Mike Johnson, he doesn't even believe what he's saying. He believes in control, and he believes in tweaking things. He believes that is how you calm what people might consider chaos. I have to be considerate of somebody else's choice when my religion says that choice is bad. And a lot of times it's not because they would like to make that choice. It's because they feel restricted by the religion that they're still participating in. But then it's so foundational to who they are. They don't know how to be that anybody outside of a very strict space. But some people also see how it is powerful and how if you just tweak a few things and bring more people in, you can control all sorts of things. Or the acknowledgement that you don't have to have everybody be part of the religion, but you do have to get the principles of the religion that a large enough group will vote for it to have power and control, that then you can remove all these other things, all these other freedoms. You have an ideology that is completely opposite to the American ideology trying to take over America. It is ideological rape. So when you feel very icky, that is what you're feeling. You're feeling violated. If you do not understand why you feel angry and mad, ask yourself, do I feel violated? Even if you voted for the fucker, ask yourself, do I feel violated right now? And if the answer is yes, then pull on your brave. Pull on your brave. Get your cape. Or pull up your brave panties, whichever. And get out there in the streets. That is how we fight this. Going, no, 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 no. No. You don't get to, no. You don't get to do this. You don't get to do this. And then, because if they're going to ideologically violate you right now, it's going to continue. It's going to get worse. It always gets worse. And then they kill you. Whether you die because you don't have access to health care, whether you die because you can't take it anymore, whether you die because there is no longer safety measures at work and there's incredibly terrible accident, whether you die because you were swooped up and taken off to a place, or you fight against the wrong person, it is going to go until you perish. And they don't care about that. They don't care about the harm until you go. They just care about controlling you and what you can do for them. And then what little crumbles they give you for you to be fucking appreciative of. Say thank you. And as a side note, I love the way Zelensky said thank you to Donald Trump's administration yesterday. If you don't know what that is, go look it up. I'm very proud of Zelensky. That was fucking fantastic. And I'm delighted. But Zelensky walked in, felt the violation, rejected it, and went and got help. And he's doing good things. So yeah. If you need community, hit the streets and get involved in your community. That is where community is. It's not in your home. It's not with the same people that are pulling you down, that are in agreement to the essay happening. It is in with others who also agree that this is egregious and wrong. And it's not about all of us being agreement in the same spaces and places across all things. It is us being on the same page that we all have rights to live our lives as freely as the United States Constitution gives to us, which is a whole hell of a lot of fucking freedom. Okay? So with that, I will see you on the streets.